Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I had the zebra dream again last night. I was riding through the plains of Africa away from a hippo, and a lion chasing the hippo, and a hippo chasing the lion, and a hippo chasing that lion, and so forth and so on. And I'm riding on a zebra, and a cheetah comes bolting out of the thicket. So yes, zebras are more scary than horses. It's not a racist, Africanized bees kind of thing. It's an Africa is a dangerous friggin' continent, which makes guns important kind of thing. And therefore, zebras are more scary than horses, which are more scary than horses, which is less scary than a unicorn, which is less scary than a centaur. And these are the kinds of discussions I have with my niece, which is why I love her. Also, I love her Australian accent. I used to do this thing where I just start, I'd say, I'm going to go in this restaurant and I'm going to speak nothing with my German accent. I'm going to order everything with my German accent. She's like, no, don't do it. But she's laughing her head off. So now she's like been watching some Australian content somewhere. And so now she's been picking up on the Australian accent. And we'll have these Australian conversations. And she's schooling me on like how to speak Australian. I'm like, Forsters, that's how you say Australian. And she's like, you're saying "nair" wrong. And I was like, what? You're saying "nair" wrong. It's like, you don't say no. I'm not saying no right for Australian. She said, no is more like "nair." Nair. You going to the park today? Nair. I was like, she's right. She is right. Love her to pieces. Anyway, this is Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. Welcome. Thank you so much. This is a show where I talk about random things that come in my head, and then we do the news in the second half of the hour. Okay. You can go to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron there. I would appreciate it very much. If you just want to send me a one-time donation, use hashtag shockmonkeyradio on Cash App. You can also follow me on social media at Denalitsaw, which is the word wasteland spelled backwards, on Twitter, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download. Check the description for links below. I am so glad that this Depp-Heard trial is over. I haven't mentioned it a whole lot on this show, and yes, that's intentional. Obviously, these Holly weirdos and their drama had its high points, pooping in beds and all that, and yeah, we all got a chuckle or two out of it. But it's all so stupid, and I can't stand all this conversation about it. And I'm playing right into their hands. The only relevant thing to come out of the end of this is the end of the believe all women nonsense. Because as anyone with any sense knows, that women are just as capable of lying as anyone else. Amber Heard should be absolutely ashamed of herself, and every single woman who has ever been actually abused by a boyfriend or spouse should be furious with her. Pooping on a bed is nothing compared to the shame she should feel for what she did. But let's be honest. All of this is just Holly weird gossip, and I can't stand people who think that the lives of actors or princes or other celebrities, as if the sordid details of their failed relationships are any more important than our own. If you're the kind of person who followed this whole trial and watched as much of it as you could, you really need to work on your self-esteem. You are so much more important than these wankers. I understand that you may be living vicariously through all these things, but these people are not relevant to the world. Anyone can throw a vodka bottle or poop a bed, although I don't recommend that you do so. I just don't understand why people care about the real-life drama of these spoiled actors and entertainers. If you're into courtrooms and curious about how justice is done, go to your local courthouse and watch the interesting trials taking place in your community. If you don't want to do that, then quit saying it's because you love Dick Wolf's Law and Order series and you're only interested in celebrity gossip. Why isn't People Magazine or Us Weekly enough for you? In fact, your curiosity is what creates demand for information on these types of people, and sometimes it can even result in the death of people like Diana, Princess of Wales. Oh, you think the royal family killed her? Well, you're falling right back into the same trap. Graduate from high school drama, gossip queens. And as a side note, these are all the same reasons why you shouldn't care what Matthew McConaughey says. Wet my whistle there. So I watched Pistol. Now, I don't know if I said it before, but I'm totally saying it now. I hate the Sex Pistols and that whole heroin-riddled Cobain culture. I will say that Pistols is an excellent miniseries, which is what we used to call that kind of thing. In fact, the series is more artistic than the Sex Pistols or even the Pretenders ever were. And of course, the series has to paint Chrissie Hynde as a genius who sexually transmitted her relative genius to the Sex Pistols. They shoehorned in a minority and an abortion subplot, and it's as unnecessary as any of the lyrics of every Sex Pistols song. Did I mention that I hate the Sex Pistols and that they suck as musicians? To the point. They suck as musicians to the point where it makes me think Kurt Cobain was a genius by comparison. And sure, Chrissie Hynde was obviously more talented than anyone in the Sex Pistols, but she thought London was the coolest, okay? And she thought Bowie was a genius in the 70s. Sarcasm. And the shop Sex, filled with all these communist revolutionaries, a potential domestic terrorist cell in the 70s. However, they had their points to make. And I appreciate that they showed the swastikas in the series. Not that I want to see that kind of thing, but rather that they explained why the punk movement wore that hateful symbol. They explain it quite clearly. The punk movement was about thumbing their noses at the powers that be, subverting not only the sacred symbols, but the taboo ones as well. Provocation was the point. And that's what I think is needed most in our world these days. Remember in Almost Famous when Lester Bangs told that little boy that he was entering into a dangerous time of rock and roll and that corporations were going to take control of it and turn it into a, quote, industry of cool. And here we are in 2022. And now all the people with weird, spiked, dyed haircuts and the crazy liberal chicks are the authoritarians that the Sex Pistols raged against. The corporations and the industry of cool have hijacked the spirit of punk and turned it into an oppressive regime. Speak the way we tell you to, or else you're not cool. Our world needs another punk movement. And I don't care how shitty the music may be, but the raw nerve that the Sex Pistols were, it could never be repeated with the best loops and synthesizers in modern music. I hate the Sex Pistols, make no mistake, but it took me 30 years to understand what they really meant to society and culture in general. There's always a radical element, the chaos or entropy of every closed system. It's the sociopath hiding in the genetic code. Make no mistake, the Sex Pistols are probably the worst band that ever existed, but I like them more than I like the Beatles because I understand them better than the Beatles. I also think that the world needs more Sex Pistols, and never mind the bollocks, that we need it more so than Cardi B loop tracks. Pistol, the miniseries, 12 of 13 stars. John Lydon, don't think I didn't miss your cameo. I saw you, buddy. Also, I don't know why Maisie Williams was so anxious to show everyone her tits. You're not as hot as you think you are. But if Chrissie Hynde looked anything like that, I totally get it. I totally get it. And Nancy and Sid were effing crazy people. Anyway, just talking. Pistols. Pretty good series. I don't want to get off on a rant here, but do you back into parking spots? If you do, you're an asshole and a sociopath. Why do you do that? Why do you feel the need to stop in the middle of a thoroughfare? Sometimes with a car behind you, put it in reverse. And sometimes the car behind you has to go into reverse to give you room to perform this selfish maneuver. Do you ever think about anyone other than yourself? Just pull in forward like a normal person. Either way, you're going to have to back up coming or going. But the way you're doing it maximizes the impact on other motorists. You savage, idiot! Savage! Are you that scared of backing into the thoroughfare where you risk hitting someone because you cannot see? You could not be bothered to check your mirrors or, God forbid, look over your shoulder and check your blind spots like you're supposed to anyway, you lazy piece of shit? If you're that scared, you shouldn't be driving. It's not any safer backing into a parking spot than back out of a parking spot, and it just holds everyone else up, you savage idiot! And while I'm on the topic, do you pull through one parking spot and go to the next? Do you do that? You're also an asshole and a sociopath. What if someone else was about to park there? That has happened to me on several occasions, and I hocked a big chunk of lung butter on those cars once I had to go find another parking spot because of your selfish ass. You're lucky I didn't get out of my car and beat you to within an inch of your life when you do something stupid like that. That's my first impulse. Think of the other people in our society that are not you. You savage idiot! And you sons and daughters of bitches, you who drive wherever you want in any direction in an empty parking lot, oh, we should be allowed to murder you straight up. Whenever anyone does that, it drives the angry OCD monster in my head crazy. And the rage would just, it would spring eternal. I feel like Walter in The Big Lebowski. I want to pull a 45 out of my bowling bag and scream, am I the only one who gives a shit about the rules? And the older I get, the more I understand that character. And at some point in the future, you bet your butt you can see me bashing up a car with a baseball bat screaming, you see what happens, Larry? You see what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass? Kind of hurt my throat on that one.
Sometimes I back into parking spots because I have to load heavy stuff into the back of the vehicle.
I'll have to kick your ass later. I'm not going to do it on the show. I'm sure there's legal concerns. In that situation, if I knew you're offloading equipment, if I could see you're offloading equipment, you can't, yeah. I can't fault you for that. You have business to do. But if it's just a normal parking lot and you're a customer at Weiss, all right? This happened yesterday, damn it. I want to kill you. Anyway, I want to talk one more thing before we get into the news. I know, it's real intense rants in this one. Anyway, I watched a movie again called Your Highness. I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty awful. And so I've mentioned a few times that I went to high school with Danny McBride. And if you don't know, Danny McBride's that he plays the fat douchebag in that one movie. You remember? Anyway, so Danny McBride, I went to high school with him. Didn't really hang out with him that much. But I was watching this movie and I was just thinking, I can't believe that Danny McBride is getting these parts. I can't believe he's getting this work. I really don't, because he's the same character every time. And you think I can't play a fat douchebag? You know, if I had like a number, you know, like half the people viewing my stuff as, you know, Danny McBride's, and I find myself far more interesting and, you know, I could less one note than Danny McBride. Well, I could play a fat douchebag. I do it every day. You know, I'm a good character actor, which is what Danny McBride is. He's a character actor, and he plays one character. Okay. And I was thinking about it is because I was watching the credits, of course, and Ben Best's name pops up. And Ben Best is probably the real genius behind Danny McBride, the reason why Danny McBride got any work. And don't get me wrong, you know, I laughed quite a bit at Eastbound and Down. I thought it was hilarious. I think there are some funny moments in Your Highness as well. But the real genius of that duo is Ben Best. And Ben Best went to school down here in North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, I think. And, you know, Danny, I think he went down to school there after high school. And that's how they got hooked up together and they started working and collaborating. And, you know, and so, but I mean, let's face it, like Ben Best, he was the real talent and he died last year. And that's kind of sad. And I can't find the cause of death, which is weird. But, you know, rest in peace, Ben Best. I mean, you did do things that made me laugh. And sometimes there were, you know, 4 characters that Danny McBride could play. And so, yeah, I respect for your success, but I mean, I just don't understand why that's more popular than my show. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're talking about other YouTubers and stuff like that. I mean, I get it. I guess you get far more information with Ben Shapiro. You get far more moral, certainty with Matt Walsh or whatever you are. A little more swarthiness with that horrible person, Michael Knowles, or whatever you watch. Even Crowder. Crowder's way funnier than me. I'm laughing my ass off every day this week at 10:30 in the morning. Laughing my ass off. Dave Landau, follow him on Twitter. I frequently comment on his because he's got some serious meme game. He's got serious meme game. So follow Dave Landau on Twitter. Anyway, so I'm just wondering because Danny and I kind of came from the same place. Doing similar types of thing. Fat, facial hair, goatee. I could be a D-bag, but I'm not always talking about my dick and shit. always talking about sex stuff. Anyway, yeah, he went to church with me too. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the news worth knowing. Armed California man arrested near Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh's Maryland home. Now, first thing I'm going to say is why do you live in Maryland, dude? You go to Fairfax County. Anyway, so an armed man was arrested near the Maryland home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh this morning. Law enforcement sources confirmed to Fox News. The suspect, 26-year-old Nicholas John Roski of Simi Valley, California, was carrying a gun, knife, and pepper spray when arrested and had made violent threats against Kavanaugh, sources said. Roski was yelling so much. My voice. Roski was picked up on a nearby street after calling police to on 911. What the hell are they saying here? Edit this. Roski was picked up on a nearby street after calling police 911 to report himself. He did not get to the Kavanaugh home. I imagine not. Excuse me. Roski told officers on the scene near the Kavanaugh home that he wanted to kill the justice, according to sources. He is scheduled to have his first appearance in Maryland federal court later today. U.S. Marshals in Montgomery County Police Department are handling the investigation. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland addressed the incident at a press conference, previously planned to provide an update on the federal investigation into Uvalde, Texas elementary school shooting. Quote, "This kind of behavior, it's obviously behavior we will not tolerate," Garland said. "Threats of violence and actual violence against justices of the court strike at the heart of our democracy. We will do everything we can to prevent them and hold people who do them accountable." Garland said that he accelerated the protection of all justices' residences 24/7 and met with the marshal of the court last month. He said that he also convened a meeting with the marshal as well as the deputy FBI director, the U.S. Marshal Service, with the Justice Department's own law enforcement prosecutors to ensure every data protection available. Just yesterday, I met with Judge Salas and Judge Sullivan, the Judicial Security Committee, as a condition and assured them that of our complete support for their efforts with respect to traditional security, he said. At approximately 1:50 a.m. today, a man was arrested near Justice Kavanaugh's home. Patricia McCabe, spokeswoman for the Supreme Court, said in a statement to Fox News, "The man was armed and made threats against Justice Kavanaugh. He was transported to Montgomery County Police 2nd District." The arrest came just hours before the Supreme Court revealed Wednesday that it had not ruled on the case of Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, prolonged the wait for its opinion, which is expected to overturn Roe versus Wade, the landmark 1973 ruling that guaranteed a woman's right to an abortion. The Department of Homeland Security issued a new bulletin Tuesday, warning of heightened threat environment over the next several months as they monitor both risks of domestic terrorism and foreign adversaries looking to sow U.S. Societal division and inspire violence. While citing other major recent events, including mass shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York, the DHS update reiterated the previous bulletin that individuals both for and against abortion online have advocated for violence against government, religious, and reproductive health care personnel and facilities in response to the high-profile U.S. Supreme Court case. I just don't know why there's people who will do that. Why they take things that far. I've always hated the abortion. Growing up in the church and stuff like that, it was constantly talked about. And it was, you're showing these, when I was a young kid, like a teenager, and they're showing me pictures of dead babies and stuff like that. That evokes a lot of feelings in people, And so, but I tolerated it. I never got so angry. I said, I have to go kill someone because of what's going on here. That's just adding to the evil. You know what I'm saying? This is the kind of conversations you have within, in church. It's like, you don't fix evil by adding more evil. And so it just, no matter what you think on this issue, even if you think that, Justice Kavanaugh, he wants to, take away women's rights and stuff like that. You don't fix, if you think that's an evil, or if that's what he's is really trying to do, if you think that that's evil, you don't fix that by adding more evil. I don't know. It just seems like basic common sense to me. Anyway. Wow. All right. Let's go to this, something a little funnier. Pro-choice activist stripped during Joel Osteen church service. Overturn Roe. Hell no. So check this out. You can go find video of this. It's hilarious. So pro-choice activists interrupted Pastor Joel Osteen's church service on Sunday in Houston, Texas, by taking off their clothes and shouting, "My body, my choice." This is a quote, "My body, my effing choice," one activist with Rise Up for Abortion Rights is heard shouting in the church as she took off her dress, leaving only her underwear, according to a video posted to social media on Sunday. "Overturn Roe, hell no," another activist screams as removing her clothing. A total of 3 women took part of the protest by stripping down their underwear on Sunday in the church and shouting, according to Chron, C-H-R-O-N, Chron. Not familiar with that. The women were escorted out of the church, allowing Osteen to continue preaching, which garnered cheers and applause from the churchgoers. Outside, however, the activists continued their protest and were joined with other supporters, according to the outlet. The activists are part of a Rise Up for Abortion Rights, which has condemned the possibility of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade following the leaked draft decision last month. Quote, "I know it seems very outrageous to do it in a church or in a private space," activist Julianne Depp-Heard, forgive me, told KPRC2 of the protest. However, the people that are enforcing these laws have no qualms coming up to women in private spaces such as doctors' offices and medical clinics to harass them and call them murderers. The video of the disruption has gained thousands of views. A representative for Osteen's Lakewood Church did not immediately respond to Fox News Digital for a comment. Quote, "Joel Osteen has an international audience, and silence is violence when it comes to things like these," she added. "We have an unprecedented and very short amount of time to garner the attention that we need to get to millions of people in the streets, millions of people doing actions like we were today." It's she's kind of cute too, which sucks. The it's just like, oh, what a waste, and it really doesn't bother me that these protesters do this stuff, especially at like a Joel Osteen church. If it was at my church, I'd have a big problem with it because the reason they're there is for the stage. It's like Joel Osteen has all those cameras there, That's they're like springboarding from his platform, and I think that's I may have talked about this before, but I don't like super churches. I don't like churches that are too big and they got there's too much of a performance aspect to them, and stuff like that. And there's like it's like a huge band, you got you got the actual band, the musicians, and you got the choir, and they're all sniping at each other with passive aggressive stuff, It's a nightmare. I really don't like those big churches, and I don't think that Joel Osteen's very much of a good person for indulging on this because he's lining his pockets with it, for good or whatever, for good or ill. I'm not the judge of his soul, that's between him and God. But I don't think that that's the way the message should be served to people. It should be churches should be small, and it shouldn't be so like televised all over the world. It's for your community, your local community. Anyway, so I don't mind them protesting at Joel Osteen because I'm not a fan of Osteen. But these crazy chicks, they think that's what they're supposed to do. People are dumb these days. All right, so let's talk about Florida for a second. Rays fans weigh in after DeSantis vetoes $35 million for Florida's team's training facility. Coming out of St. Petersburg, Florida, the Tampa Bay Rays fan spoke to Fox News about Governor Ron DeSantis' decision to veto $35 million in funding for a new training facility. Quote, "We as taxpayers should just worry about bringing lots of fans to the area and support that," Bonnie of Bradenton told Fox News. "The governor has no business in that." Really? After vetoing the funding, DeSantis said Friday that he doesn't support giving taxpayer dollars to professional sports stadiums, end quote, and that, quote, "it's inappropriate to subsidize political activism as a private corporation." Burn. The Rays have pledged to donate $50,000 to every town for gun safety in late May following the Uvalde, Texas shooting. Quote, "I agree on the first part. Taxpayers should not be funding public teams," Kevin from Valrico, Florida, said of DeSantis' comments. "I disagree about his latter part," he added. "The government should not be telling the industry what they believe or what they don't believe." Jonathan of St. Petersburg told Fox News the governor needs to be more tactful. that wouldn't have done it if it had been for Uvalde. They wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for Uvalde. "It's not every day they're spouting political beliefs," he continued. "It's not like every day they're spouting their political beliefs." Bonnie said, "Governor DeSantis wants everyone to be free and have freedoms. I think that every company should be free to support what they want." The governor's decision followed a spat between DeSantis and Disney earlier this year. DeSantis revoked Disney's special tax and self-governing privileges in April after the company vowed to support a repeal of Florida's parental rights law. Quote, "Everyone has the right to say what they need to say," one Rays fan said. "Unfortunately, in this world in 2022, it's all about politics and dividing our nation." DeSantis is awesome, he continued. "He is for the people. He is He's the most common sense man ever." Excuse me. Amanda of Orlando disagreed. He's run our economy into the ground. Everything he's done with the state, I disagree with, she said. He's run the economy into the ground. Some of these people, and I'm on board. I don't think that governments should be like using taxpayer dollars to get sports teams, in their city for spending money for that. I think that when these corporations like like the New York Yankees, if they're like if New York, if you're not going to pay for a new training facility for our guys, maybe we'll move to Albany or something like that. The government shouldn't do that. It's like, yeah, go ahead, pack up and move. Go ahead. We'll bulldoze this place so fast. That's sad. It made me sad just to think about bulldozing Yankee Stadium out of spite. It made me sad anyway. I don't even like the Yankees. It seems counterintuitive. But I don't think the taxpayers should have to be footing the bill for that kind of thing, especially with the prices you're paying at those parks. You know what I'm talking about? These people are making money hand over fist at these, stadiums and so forth. Give me a break. You want the taxpayers to pay for your training facility? It's just irritating to me. So, I'm on DeSantis' side when it comes to that. Yeah. Anyway, let's go to this nightmare of a news story. Larry Nasser victims, including Olympians, seek over $1 billion in claims against FBI for investigation failures. So former Olympic gymnast Simone Biles, Ali Raceman, Michaela Maroney are part of a group of nearly 90 women bringing claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act against the FBI, claiming that their failure to properly investigate complaints against Dr. Larry Nasser resulted in the continued sexual abuse of women and girls under his care. Nasser, a former doctor for USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University, is spending what is likely to be the rest of his life behind bars after being convicted of abusing dozens of female athletes under the guise of medical treatment. The FBI received reports in 2015 that Nasser abused multiple gymnasts, but the Justice Department Inspector General report found that they did not open an investigation at that time. Quote, FBI officials who possessed this knowledge were in a position to end Nasser's predation and were grossly derelict in their duties, resulting in Nasser sexually assaulting approximately 100 young women and children between July 28, 2015 and September 12, 2016, and conspired with the highest-ranking officials within the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee and USA Gymnastics Incorporated to conceal this known sexual abuse from foreseeable victims, a claim from 5 of former gymnasts said. Fox News reached out to the FBI for comment, but they did not immediately respond. You don't say. Quote, my fellow survivors and I were betrayed by every institution that was supposed to protect us. The U.S. Olympic Committee, USA Gymnastics, the FBI, and now the Department of Justice, Maroney said in a statement. I had some hope that they would keep their word and hold the FBI accountable after we poured out our hearts to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee and begged for justice. It is clear that the only path to justice is healing through the legal process. Maroney, Biles, and Reisman and fellow gymnast Maggie Nichols recounted their experiences before the Senate Judiciary Committee in September after the Department of Justice Inspector General's report revealed the FBI's inaction. In reviewing the OIG's report, Biles said at the time, it truly feels that the FBI turned a blind eye to us and went out of its way to protect the USAG and the USOPC. A message needs to be sent. If you allow a predator to harm children, the consequences will be swift and severe. Enough is enough. Maroney, who won Olympic gold in 2012, told lawmakers how she spent 3 hours on the phone with the FBI in the summer of 2015, answering questions and discussing in detail every instance of abuse she endured. After telling my entire story of abuse in the FBI in the summer of 2015, not only did the FBI not report my abuse, but they eventually documented my report 17 months later, and they made entirely false claims about what I said, Maroney said at the hearing, stating that she was shocked and deeply disappointed by what she read in the Inspector General's report. FBI Director Chris Wray apologized for the Bureau's failures at a Senate hearing. I'm especially sorry that there are people at the FBI who had their own chance to stop this monster back in 2015 and failed, and that's inexcusable, Wray said. Attorney General Merrick Garland also apologized when he appeared before senators in April. It's almost unspeakable. It is unspeakable, Garland said. What happened to those gymnasts is almost unspeakable. Is the unspeakable way in which the investigation failed to proceed. We have created institutional changes in that regard to make sure it does not happen again. Neither Wray nor Garland were in office in 2015, FYI, because they're constantly rotating these people out, and they all evade accountability because they're constantly being rotated out. You deal with a scandal, and you're like, hey, I could just move to a different position. And that's the problem with this kind of thing, you know. Because, I mean, FBI, those three-letter agencies, they're like that too. You know, if you're the director of the FBI, you know, you probably do that for like 4 to 8 years or something like that and rotate into something else. That's how it goes. It's like, you know, it's even the, you know, like the investigators that handled the case back in 2015. They're probably on some other position now. Director of something or other. That's how it works in those agencies. And it's just sad that, you know, this kind of story will not get the kind of public attention that the Amber Heard trial, you know, gets, which is a false thing. I mean, 90 young women being bad touched by this predator, this monster, as they called him. FBI like totally failing. And, you know, and then these other people is like, oh, take away the guns and let these people be the only ones armed. These people are incompetent. How can you trust them? Anyway, let's try to get a little more upbeat before we end the show. Oh, it's a short one today. Really moved through it. All right, so Florida stepfather found guilty after waitress uses a secret note to save child abuse victim. A Florida man has been found guilty of child abuse 1 year after a waitress's keen eye and quick thinking saved his abuse victim, resulting in his initial arrest, officials said. Timothy Lee Wilson, 36, was found guilty of multiple child abuse charges stemming from an arrest on New Year's Day in 2021, when his waitress, Flavianne Carvalho, suspected he may have been abusing his child in his care, WESH reported. Wilson was found guilty on Monday of false imprisonment of a child under the age of 13, 3 counts of aggravated child abuse with a weapon, 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, and 1 account of child neglect, according to the report. Quote, justice was served, Carvalho said after the verdict was announced, WESH reported. Now he, the victim, is healthy. He is being loved, and it's clear on his face and the way he's acting that he's much better now. A secret note. In 2021, Carvalho, a manager at the Mrs. Potato restaurant in Orlando, Florida. Side note, that's a horrible name for a restaurant. Mrs. Potato? That's awful. Anyway, This restaurant in Orlando, Florida, was waitressing a table for Wilson and his family on New Year's Day when she noticed the man had not ordered any food for an 11-year-old boy at the table. Fox 35 of Orlando reported. Wilson, the boy's stepfather, reportedly told Carvalho that the child would eat at home, but that did little to assuage her conscience after she noticed cuts and bruises on the boy's face and arms, so she acted. Quote, I could see he had a big scratch between his eyebrows. Carvalho, I'm losing power. Is this thing on? Can you check that for me? My battery dying. All right. I could see he had a big scratch between his eyebrows. Did I flip the switch or not? Yep, still no power. Scratch between his eyebrows. A couple minutes later, I saw a bruise on the side of his eye. Oh, there we go. Got it. Thank you, sir. Bruise on the side of his eye, so I felt there was something really wrong. Without alerting the boy's parents, Carvalho, who has 2 children of her own, gained the boy's attention and quickly passed him a secret note asking if he needed help. The boy nodded in the affirmative, and Carvalho called the police. Quote, I am relieved to know that the abuser is paying for his crimes and the boy has a better chance in life, Carvalho told WESH. During a press conference, police described what the child has gone through as torture, Fox 35 reported. Seeing what that 11-year-old had gone through, it shocked your soul, the police said. It was later that learned that the boy's stepfather routinely abused and tortured him. Medical officials also discovered the boy had bruises across his whole body and that he was underweight, per the report. Get kind of mad. Quote, I was used like a tool from God to help him, Carvalho told WESH. We need to pay attention to the ones that are in need and step forward and do something to change the situation. The little boy was so brave, he not only saved himself, he saved his little sister by standing up to this man, Carvalho told the Daily Mail TV. I am so proud of him. He is a hero. Officials also said that on more than one occasion the boy was isolated, forced to starve as punishment, was hung upside down, and spent Christmas Day handcuffed to a dolly, Fox 35 reported. He was forced to complete rigorous exercises. If he failed, he would be beaten, officials said. Ugh, I don't want to read it anymore. It's awful. It really is awful. But God bless this woman, because she's like, the little boy's so brave, not only saved himself, saved his little sister by standing up to this man. I'm so proud of him. He is the hero. She doesn't even want recognition for it. It's like that boy took the hand that was offered him. But you got to understand, it's like not everyone offers a hand. And that's why you're a hero too, you know. And you gotta celebrate the little victories. You know, this guy, he was caught, he's being punished. You got to appreciate those, because there's so much, you know, the news is always focused on such negative things. All right, this last story. A veteran performs hundreds of military honors in North Dakota, something you got to do. Marvin Nicklay has devoted much of his life to honoring the late men and women who served in the U.S. military. Nicklay, 81, from Fargo, North Dakota, is a veteran and volunteer with the Fargo Memorial Honor Guard. He has performed hundreds of military honors at funerals at the Fargo National Cemetery. It's the honor of doing it, Nicklay told Fox News Digital about why he continues to volunteer. And the feeling it gives you, it's just in me. Since the cemetery opened in September of 2019, Nicklay and his team of volunteers have performed military honors for 456 veterans, Nicklay told Fox News Digital. There are 109 military spouses buried in the Fargo National Cemetery, Nicklay said. However, he said the Honor Guard is not required to do military honors for spouses or servicemen and women. Nicklay joined the North Dakota Army National Guard in 1963 and began volunteering to perform military honors at funerals that same year with the American Legion in Barnesville, Minnesota. It got in my blood, Nicklay said. It's just one of those things that was just something you've got to do. After almost 6 decades for performing military honors, Nicklay said he doesn't plan to stop anytime soon. Nicklay organizes the volunteers with the Fargo Memorial Honor Guard, who perform between 6 and 10 services per week during the busier months of spring and summer, he said. Military funeral honors always involve the playing of taps and the folding and presentation of the flag, according to Military One Source website. Nicklay told Fox News Digital that the Fargo Memorial Honor Guard also has a rifle squad that fires during the services. The empty casings are presented to the family of the deceased along with special honors coin if the deceased was a veteran from North Dakota. Nicolay gives the coin and empty casings to the family and offers the condolences of the Fargo Memorial Honor Guard, which he says is an honor. It's just overwhelming, Nicolay said of the process. Especially to look them in the eye. It's tough. Nicolay was raised on a dairy farm in Barnesville, he told Fox News Digital. He joined the Army National Guard because after he graduated from Interstate Business College in 1962, no one would hire him, as he hadn't done his military service. He says, "We don't want you because," they said, "We don't want you because we don't want to train you and then lose you," Nicolay recalled. He served in the Army National Guard for 32 years. During that time, he was mostly stateside, though he did do humanitarian work in Honduras a few times with the Guard. On Memorial Day this year, Nicolay is participating in several programs at various cemeteries with the Moorhead American Legion Post 21, of which he is a member. Once those ceremonies are done, Nicolay will head to the Fargo National Cemetery, where the Fargo Memorial Honor Guard will participate in another program at 3 p.m. During the programs and ceremonies, Nicolay told Fox News Digital he'll be thinking about. You think about the families and what they have lost, and those that have never came back or are buried in faraway countries where they fought and died, Nicolay said. He also shared what Americans should remember this Memorial Day. Do not forget our veterans who have sacrificed everything or have come back home and passed on, Nicolay said. That's what Memorial Day is all about. Obviously, I probably should have done this like a week or two ago, but I think it's important every day to remember this. Is like there are people who volunteer to do this, like every day, day in, day out. It's a tough job, to be sure, but I think like people who put their time in, those are those people are heroes in their own right. Because he could be like National Guard. National Guard doesn't really deploy with wars and so forth, but they'll do humanitarian stuff overseas and stuff like that, and that's what he was talking about. And it's kind of like being in the Navy during wartime, because I was in the Navy after September 11, 2001. So technically I'm a veteran, but I was in the middle of processing out of the Navy. It's not like I went and fought anywhere or like lost people, and like there's a lot of people in my generation that did go over there, and lost people and so forth. And I feel bad. It's like I didn't do enough for my country. I don't feel comfortable calling myself a veteran. I just wish I even had the guts that this guy has to donate my time to honor those who have fallen in the line of duty. Anyway, I want to remind you again that we have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate it very much. I also have a Cash App if you want to send me money that way. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. You can follow me on social media. You can see over here at Denaltz on Twitter, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I have books available for digital download. Links are in the description if you want to buy my books. I would appreciate that too. And if you want to help, just like, share, and subscribe if you can't put any money in there. So, I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.